Perfect. Hi, this is NFI, and I have a wonderful friend with me today, and he's also building a startup in EdTech. So, we'd love to know about him or what he's doing.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for joining.
Nice. So my name is Kunal, and I'm building this platform EdTech, which helps the students.
Okay.
0 to K-12 basically.
Okay.
And then it's mostly it's a very specialized kind of a. It's not the general LMS platform that you generally have.
Yeah.
It's more of targeting certain students who do who read about Abacus. So that's the tool we are using.
Yep.
And it's a little challenging to transform that into a digital format and scale it up, right? I mean, physical schools we already have. We have a lot of connections, but to scale it up virtually, you need something. You need something of a combination of AI, where if the teachers are absent, then probably the AI can come and teach them on the virtual platform. Kind of a realistic model of Abacus, yeah. So these kind of things is what actually that's what we're targeting.
Is it going to be focused more on the mathematical part, or like because I personally, being a Abacus learner for the 9 years, so I think it would be interesting to kind of know, like, is it going to be more on the mathematics and coding part, or like?
Yeah, it's going to be focused more on the mathematics, especially the complex combination of maths, right? So that's something we're targeting, and it's ranges from, like I said, K1 grade all the way to 10th or 12th grade students. So they have different ways of people who really want to learn it as a passion. So we do connect with a lot of schools, a lot of individuals as well, and we want to make a tutoring platform. So it's not going to be only Abacus. It's going to be, so we're targeting the tough things in education. For example, labs, chemistry labs. Yeah, we go to that. But then how do you bring chemistry lab online so that this in a digital format, so the students can seamlessly look at it and maybe get a feel of it? And then we're not going to AR into AR VR, because we understand the problem that the schools have. They cannot they cannot they cannot afford those equipments.
Yeah, infrastructure costs. There.
Yeah, so these are some of the things that we are aware about in targeting similar schools. There's other things that we will be integrating with, apart from the LMS and the SIS systems that we have. We'll be building e-commerce systems for schools. For example, a student wants to buy bags, yes, and they maybe purchase a laptop. We'll partner with vendors on the other side, like Chroma or maybe some other vendor, and then negotiate good rates, maybe 10%, 20% discount, which normally they wouldn't give to students. And then probably sell all kinds of products from laptops to books. So we'll target with the local vendors. So you can think of it as Amazon for schools.
Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting.
I can diversify into 10 different more ideas, but these are like
this is the
evolving basic. 1 year, 3 year roadmap.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And I think one very interesting thing I was actually curious about, like how AI is actually shaping learning, right? Because nowadays we have all these no-code platforms, which is people can pretty much don't need to actually learn coding languages, right? I think NVIDIA's founder also said that you don't need to potentially learn coding languages, right? So do you think that now students actually need to learn more about how to solve problems, how to develop that mental state, how to develop that thinking state, rather than actually learn coding? And what's your take on that?
That's a very interesting point, and that's what we were discussing early on in the day.
Yeah.
Kamath and everybody, they've repeatedly, even this Hussain guy, he's repeatedly said that 1.8 years down the lane, you will not need developers anymore.
Yeah.
So it will all be just just regular. But you can take that with a pinch of salt, because I think you do need developers. Because you have AI is fascinating, but then there's limited use cases right now. So they're not building humanoids anytime sooner, fully functioning. There's some gaps. For example, AI will cover 99% of things, but there's things like creativity. That's still something AI cannot. There's gaps in accuracy also. You can have 70, 80, 90% accuracy. Look at the benchmarks for Replit, or look at the benchmarks for different models in Hugging Face, and you'll find out that there's limitations to what an AI can do. And that's where I think that, but yeah, I mean, talking about students to build startups, Yesterday we were in the Google office with about 50 students, and we built. Everybody was given a task to build a chatbot or using Gemini. So we were able to do it in about 30 minutes. Build it out all the way from Gemini, use Gradle, and all the tech complexities, and then that's possible. Anybody can do it. It's very simple.
Absolutely, and I think, like you said, of course, I also personally think that developers won't be replaced anytime soon.
Yes.
But I think they can potentially be accelerated, right? Like it would be something like accelerating devs. And I think there was this recent study as well where people were saying that there are a lot of devs in big companies like Deloitte and others, where coders they are charging $200,000-$300,000, and they basically do less than 3 commits per month.
Yes.
So I think they could be replaced pretty much.
For sure. If they are not innovating, if they are not thinking ahead of the game, then yes, because it's every good coder, because coder or a developer, they're different. I would say different levels of expertise in those. So if they're not applying whatever they've learned over the duration of time and using AI, so for example, Google uses 25% of the workforce, or 25% of the projects actually use AI. But then for code reviews, they're still using developers, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the way to go right now. And then as you progress, there's going to be larger chunk of code reviews by AI and larger chunk of building end-to-end deployment. So it's not only deployment testing, using the 20 different DevOps tools like Chef Puppet, right? So it's all going to be done by AI. But then there's all the scope, like I said, creativity. And then there's thinking out of the box, thinking why you want to solve a certain problem. So you can't expect these answers, or connecting the customer, solving their pain points. You can't expect an AI to go and do that. An AI won't be handling you emotional content because of the lack of it.
Absolutely. And do you also feel that AI right now has a very limited context window too, and it cannot do the backend part? And also I think cybersecurity risks would also increase, because recently, right?
Privacy, PII. Yes, it's a big thing now that they're building. I understand the framework, the ethical framework for AI, and doing social for good. That's really that's picking up. But then there's a lot of implementation or regulatory implementation, I would say, policies which have not come down at that level. So there needs to be a stronger framework. And security measures need to be taken. Yes, so we can't think of a mass scale deployment for all the SMBs in India for a certain, so that has to be gradual.
Absolutely. And I think my last question to you just would be, like, if you talk about science, especially in chemistry, right, and innovation that's been happening in chemistry, what do you think? How can AI actually innovate over there as well?
So that is a very interesting question. Like, one of the things I talked about is chem labs, right? Yeah. So science and chemistry, so those are, right now, you can feed the AI the entire book and ask relevant questions, assessment questions. So it will give you quizzes, it will give you, your exam prep. It can predict what kind of questions based on last 10 years you'll get in the future. So there's also, based on the probability of the teacher asking the questions. I'm just thinking this on the top of my head, right? Yeah. So suppose the teacher has asked these pattern of questions. It can identify the pattern and give you the 11th question that the teacher will ask.
So I think, of course, chemistry, like you pointed out, I think it's very interesting how people can, innovate the chemistry labs and that. And I think one last question would be, what do you think, like, how can AI accelerate Indian education as well? Because, nowadays, I think people say Indian education especially is lacking a lot. People are still learning coding, people are still learning, C++ or older languages, and people need to actually shift to, new age concepts and new age tech.
So I have a high regard for Indians because I don't know, maybe so they're really smart, So and they I think are the best brains in the world, to be honest. Any company, even in Silicon Valley, is made by Indians. Yeah. So that's as far as I can realize. But yes, nowadays with the new, there's a shift in the market. In the sense, AI has come in, and there's a general, due to the market disruptors, which is out of our control, that AI would take away developers' jobs. So what do we study now? Do we Do we go towards this? Do we go towards marketing? I think it has progressed a lot from the last, but focusing on things, think of the roadmap 10 year, 20 year down the lane. What do you want to do? And how you can, what do you want to take, right? What do you want to build? One of the things, it's not fault of anybody, right? It's just how it's built, the system's built. You're not being taught to think, you're not being taught to innovate. There's no innovations coming out. Why? Because we want you brain dead. So you got to start thinking for yourself. What can you do different, which nobody has thought? Because you live here, you know India's core problems, you know the country's core issues, and you are the only person that can solve those kind of problems. So and building the system is easy with 1.4 billion population. There's definitely problems which does not happen in the US, it does not happen in Canada, Australia, right? So you got to think for those problems. There's another way which somebody told me. Think of something which are happening in US and they're not happening here. For example, EMR record systems. Nobody's building a regulation around EMR records for therapists, for dentists. Nobody's built it yet. Yeah. You could also think about the taxation policies. Maybe build a global taxation platform which is different for the US, different for India, because both taxation and how do you interact with Forex, right? All the trading platforms, or all the, we're building Dream 11, which is very great thing, again into GAM. So any kind of finance related or fintech related platforms are in the new 1 to 3 years, I can see them as a success.
Absolutely, and I think AI can also potentially replace psychologists, people are claiming, right?
Yes.
So what do you feel about that? Because right now, just because of AI replacing a lot of jobs, of course there's this so-called mental health crisis that's happening, right? I think that's because that's the only reason why psychologists are charging crazy prices, like 4,000, 10,000 per 1 hour, right? So do you potentially see that AI, or I'm not even talking about custom models. I feel that even foundational models could potentially serve as a psychologist as well. How do you feel about that?
So there's this component of human, right? Which is, yes, if you want somebody to, if you want an agent, let's put it as agentic AI, right? If you want an agent who's doing a certain task, or think of agent as an application, and you give an input in the terms of voice commands, and then you get an output from that. If you want that kind of a scenario, probably it can analyze your situation, ask certain questions, and you can answer them, and then it can give you, based on whatever data it has from the semantic web, or whatever data has it in the database, it can give you certain responses. But I think psychology is much deeper as a subject. It has an element of human connection. There was a study behind it. There was a white paper in which they actually practiced this in the US, and it failed.
Okay.
There's also another use case you can read on the web. So it's about the older people, right? There's old age homes in the US, a lot of them, and senile or old age people. They were given a humanoid, and they were asked to, if you have any problems, the humanoid is pretty much has got the AI configured. You can feel, you can touch, right? You can do all that. I don't think, and there was a study for it for a continuous long period of time, and I don't think anybody actually accepted it, because at the end of it, the people who are in last stages, there's another, it just doesn't happen, right? You have to feel that emotional connection. You have to feel that somebody truly cares, and not just say, "Oh, are you feeling okay today?" There's a different in tone in the voice and everything, right? And a person, a relationship that you have with a human being, it's not going to happen or change anytime for humans. Yeah, it's for So AI is good in certain places, but it's not ever going to overcome humans in certain places. That's what I believe.
Absolutely, and I think any last tip for students that are potentially, learning designing, that feel that, they are potentially being replaced by ChatGPT 4 model, or that, that are, just learning psychology or learning other fields. Any tip that you would like to give to them, which field they should potentially pursue, which is AI free?
Yeah, so there's creativity field. That would be, because I know Microsoft has Copilot as a designer, right? There's a lot of things, but that design is not, it may be complex, but not that aesthetic. And there's a lot of elements of the design, be it for UX, UI, for application, I think that probably AI cannot do anytime sooner. I know Figma has some, but there's a lot of things that it cannot do. Human touch, anything that has a like psychology, or anything that has a human connection, it cannot do. Think from the basics. So let's think of it this way. Perplexity is not Indian. Chat GPT is not Indian. OpenAI is not Indian. So why don't we build something for India, right? So why not we? So then you'll go back and see, we don't have enough infrastructure to invest in semiconductor industry to make those highly specialized chips. Well, there's news. Government is actually, in fact, investing now. So I think we should go towards that direction. Think from the defense perspective. Anything you build for the defense will be, will be whole and soul for. And the government is really investing a large Startup India funds and trying to motivate a lot of students. So, seed investments. There's Startup Mahakumbh happening soon. So take that initiative. Put your booth out there. Do a customer experience analysis. Do a competitor analysis. Ask the Indian customers what they really need. Solve their pain points and their problems, and you'll do good.
Absolutely. But I think one last thing I would definitely love to ask you is that I think there was this recent one innovation done by Cortical Labs, CL1. I think they recently claimed that they launched basically a biocompute lab which could potentially, they have like 800,000 neurons which could potentially, do compute at a very low, I would say, voltage and power. So like, what do you think about that? Do you also feel that there is a huge potential for biocompute and
Sure.
I think, the collaboration between neuroscience and AI, because of course,
That's
I think
another-
all AI is potentially learned from how human brain functions, right?
No,
So
I didn't know that. I mean, that's happening. That's awesome.
I think
that
that's
has
happening too.
that has a huge potential, especially. And if you get this published at MIT review and probably build something here, that's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, I think there are, some of my friends are actually building some organoids, right? And they're training LLM models on top of it. And, having mouse and, taking their brain and actually training some models on top of it. So I think that
that is unique. That is
right?
definitely something that is really challenging.
Yeah.
Anything to do with biology and technology is good. Medical also, if they can do go into medical research, and then that's another area where there's a lot of benefits, because medical and AI, think AI from industry specific as well. So it doesn't have to be. So if you start applying it in different industries, right, you'll find apply it in supply chain, apply it in agrotech. Agriculture tech is one of the growing industries, and food, right? I mean, food industry is another. So try applying your AI in those things aspects, and it just doesn't have to be. So you can build your own models and keep fine tuning them, and if you have lots of data, right, that would be unique. And if you keep that data private, private and secure, based on the recent, because India has something similar to GDPR, which is just for India. So if you cater to that one, I think that would be build an AI with that in mind. It would be beneficial.
Yeah, and I think last question to you just would be, I think social media is also evolving alongside AI, right? And recently Elon Musk's XAI lab acquired X, and it was something like, Elon Musk bought his own company, and I think people were just curious about how, how he's trying to push forward social media alongside AI. Like, what do you think about that? How, we could potentially have AI agents or AI versions of ourselves interacting with other AI agents of other selves, right?
Yeah, I mean, that will happen sooner or later, and it would be an assistant to you. It would not do exactly what you're doing, but kind of facilitate you or help you out and do certain tasks. The whole idea about, so that's going to be the future. Elon Musk, of course, I consider him a genius, obviously, in a lot of respects. But then we do have to see things from a little, XAI is doing good, but then there's also, Microsoft supported OpenAI, right? There's Claude Sonnet 3.7 now it's released, which is doing much in terms of developers, reviews, and is doing a phenomenal job. So there's a lot of things apart from XAI is pretty much playing catch up there. But then I think he's got certain vision, and he's got majorly the finance to back it up.
Yeah.
And the political, the power. So I think that really speaks volumes.
Absolutely. But yeah, thank you so much, brother, for joining.
Same here. Thank you so much.